River Drive.
Okay.
We actually have a trainer in the water with one of our whales.
For decades, SeaWorld has been a beloved theme park destination, known for its thrilling rides, charming dolphin shows, and mesmerizing killer whale performances. But behind the scenes, there's a much darker story, one of exploitation, abuse, even death. SeaWorld's long-standing history can be traced back to the early 1960s, when 4 UCLA graduates set out to start their underwater restaurant and marine life show. Its founders initially planned to build an underwater restaurant and marine life show, but their plans were deemed unfeasible, and they decided to open up a marine zoology park instead. The first SeaWorld park was a success and attracted 400,000 visitors in its first year. SeaWorld later opened additional parks in Ohio and Florida, and in 1988, it opened its largest park in Texas. In 1976, SeaWorld was bought by the publishing company Harcourt Brace Jovanovich, HBJ, for $12.7 million. HBJ later sold the theme park division to Anheuser-Busch, which placed the SeaWorld parks under the Busch Entertainment Corporation. In 2009, the Blackstone Group acquired Busch Entertainment, and the company became known as SeaWorld Parks and Entertainment. Killer whales symbolize voiceless creatures trapped in perpetual captivity. Director Gabriella Cowper-Waite's documentary Blackfish, which came out in 2013, was the first of many signs that something was seriously off about SeaWorld. The heart-wrenching documentary raised many questions about the morality of SeaWorld keeping orcas, or killer whales, in captivity when it results in dire risk for the animals' well-beings as well as human safety. The film mainly focused on the tragic story of the 12,000-pound male orca Tilikum, which was involved in the deaths of 3 humans. Since its inception, SeaWorld has ordered the capture of orcas for decades to force them to perform at their shows. The hunters use spotters, speedboats, nets, airplanes, and worst of all, explosives and bombs to herd the whales into coves. Once surrounded, the young orcas were selected and cruelly separated from their crying mothers. An orca named Shamu was the first killer whale to perform in an orca show at SeaWorld back in 1965. The tragic backstory behind Shamu's capture is every animal lover's nightmare. The baby orca had been abducted from her mother, who was shot with a harpoon and killed right in front of her during the capture. Shamu died just 6 years later, and SeaWorld continued to use the name for other orcas who performed at the theme park and even trademarked it, as if animal cruelty is something to be proud of. According to National Geographic, 70 orcas have been born in captivity, and another 30 died in utero, or were stillborn since 1977. It's reported that orcas can live up to 100 years in the wild, yet none of them have made it even close to 30 years before they died in a tiny, dark concrete tank in SeaWorld. Most adult orcas don't even leave their mother's side. When removed from their families and placed in small tanks, orcas can become depressed and aggressive. However, at SeaWorld, it's common practice to forcibly separate a calf from its mother when it is 4 years old or younger. When an orca named Kasaka had her calf Takara taken from her, she floated lifelessly in the corner of the tank. The bereaved mother was shaking, screeching, and crying from the complete heartache of her child's separation. A former SeaWorld orca trainer, John Hargrove, witnessed the heartbreaking event and stated, "She was emitting vocalizations that had never been heard before. Just the thought of a distraught Kasaka emitting long-range vocals to find Takara and communicate with her daughter is downright horrific." It's not just the forceful separation and isolation from their kin that drives the orcas into complete psychosis. For starters, SeaWorld tank sizes for the captive orcas are less than adequate, to put it mildly. Their tanks are only 35 feet deep, but in the wild, orcas dive up to 1,000 feet and travel at least 100 miles daily. Being cooped up in tiny metal tanks would be enough to drive anyone crazy. On top of that, captive whales, such as Tilikum at SeaWorld and Lolita at Miami Seaquarium, were forced to live in isolation in small tanks. Lolita lives alone in a pool that is less than twice the length of her body, while Tilikum was kept in a small medical pool for his protection. Due to their severely cramped quarters, captive orcas suffer from poor health and short lifespans. The critically acclaimed documentary Blackfish brought the world's attention to the tragic life of Tilikum, an orca held in captive at SeaWorld for decades. The film follows Tilikum's journey from the moment he was ripped from the pod of his family and home at just 2 years of age to the point of his death in 2017. Throughout his time at SeaWorld, Tilikum was subjected to a variety of abuses. He was forced to perform for his food and was used as a breeding machine, fathering 21 calves, 11 of whom died. He was held in small tanks, isolated from his family and other orcas, and was denied any autonomy or control over his own life. The isolation and confinement Tilikum faced, along with the constant breeding, drove him to his breaking point. In 2010, he killed his senior trainer, Don Pachu, in an incident that was captured on video and broadcast around the world. The death of Brancho finally brought to the public's attention the mistreatment and abuse of orcas at SeaWorld. It was a turning point in the fight to end the captivity of marine mammals. In the wake of Brancho's death, SeaWorld faced intense scrutiny, and Tilikum was punished for his role in the incident by being kept in solitary confinement for a year. But the damage had already been done, and Tilikum's 33 years in captivity had taken a devastating toll on him. He died of a bacterial lung infection in 2017, but his legacy lives on through the documentary and the movement it inspired to end the captivity of marine mammals. The death of Tilikum and the story of his life in captivity at SeaWorld was a powerful catalyst for change. It brought to light the suffering of marine mammals in captivity and the negative impact that captivity has on their physical and mental well-being. The documentary Blackfish and the story of Tilikum has been instrumental in raising awareness and inspiring action to end the captivity of marine mammals. And in the years since it was released, many marine parks around the world have been forced to close or change their policies on keeping marine mammals in captivity. As the pressure from animal rights groups continued to mount, SeaWorld found itself in a difficult position. The company had built its entire brand around the captivity and display of orcas, and the thought of losing these beloved animals from their parks was a daunting prospect. However, Peta's tireless campaigns and the mounting criticism from the public made it clear that something had to change. After much debate and discussion, SeaWorld made the difficult decision to end its orca breeding program and to stop allowing trainers to stand on the animals during shows. This was a huge victory for Peta and other animal rights organizations, but the fight was far from over. Peta continued to push for change by obtaining 163 shares of SeaWorld, which allowed them to be heard at a shareholders' meeting. They used this platform to make a powerful case for the release of orcas in captivity and to raise awareness about the atrocities committed by marine theme parks. The public's growing awareness of these issues, thanks in part to the efforts of groups like Empty the Tanks and Boycott SeaWorld, had a significant impact on SeaWorld's bottom line. Guest numbers and profits began to decline as more and more people chose to stay away from the parks in protest of its treatments of animals. In 2016, SeaWorld finally agreed to remove all live shows for entertainment, like One Ocean, in an attempt to appease its critics and stem the tide of negative publicity. It was a significant step forward, but for many animal rights activists, it was not enough. The fight to end the captivity of marine mammals continued, with the goal of one day seeing all of these magnificent creatures living free in the wild. Despite these changes, SeaWorld still faced significant financial challenges in the years that followed. Attendance at the park continued to decline, and the company struggled to find a way to turn things around. Many animal rights activists saw this as a sign that the company's previous practices were unsustainable and that they needed to do more to truly make amends. In 2023, Peta continues to monitor SeaWorld's actions and advocate for the welfare of the animals in their care. While some progress has been made, Peta is still pushing for the release of the remaining orcas and other marine mammals in captivity to seaside sanctuaries. The organization also continues to educate the public about the negative impact of marine theme parks and the importance of protecting these animals in their natural habitats. While SeaWorld has brought joy and wonder to millions of visitors over the years, it has also faced fierce criticism for its treatment of its orcas and its role in the capture of wild killer whales. As we move forward, It is important that we continue to engage in important conversations about the welfare of marine animals and the ethical implications of keeping them in captivity. Whether you support SeaWorld or not, it is clear that the park and its killer whales have played a significant role in our culture and environmental history, and will continue to do so for years to come.